we want to clarify when we're talking about community and freedom. We're going to be thinking about those themes in a different text here. So you guys have on your tables a copy of a poem called Freedom's Plow, and it's a poem by Langston Hughes. And what we're going to be doing today is thinking about community and freedom using this text. So what that means is we're going to look at passages that talk about not only just freedom and community, but what is the writer trying to say about freedom and community, okay? So because this is a poem, what are some things we know about poems? Yeah?
They rhyme or they have rhyme scheme.
Okay, so they can rhyme and they can have rhyme scheme, but not always. So that's one thing we're going to see in this poem. Yeah?
They're organized in lines and stanzas.
Exactly, they're organized in lines and stanzas. What's a stanza?
The stanza is like group of lines.
A group of lines, exactly. So it's kind of like a paragraph, right? In a book, that's what a stanza is in a poem. Yes, sir?
Rhythm.
Huh?
Rhythm.
What?
Rhythm.
Rhythm, sorry. Yes, okay. There could be rhythm in the poem as well. Awesome. All right, so what happened? Oh, you have an extra? Oh, that's not a big deal. Thank you. Okay, cool. So what we're going to do, we're going to be reading along with me in the poem. Again, it's written by Langston Hughes, and he's a writer who was born in the early 1900s. So he's writing during a time that's like post-abolition, which abolition is when the slaves were freed, but it's going to be before the civil rights movement, right? So before Martin Luther King and a lot of laws changing to make sure that people were actually enjoying freedom. But right, so he's a social activist, he's a writer, that's his time period, and yeah, real quick, so you guys have an idea of what a plow is. A plow is this contraption right here. It's used by farmers to basically prepare the soil.
Jay the custodian, please come to the main office. Jay the custodian, please come to the main office. Thank you.
Do you know what it's for?
It's like, this is what they use to make like these small holes, and then that they can plant some seeds in to make some crops.
Yeah, exactly. That's what they use to prepare the soil. So it looks like that afterwards. These are called furrows. And then it's able to, grow into beautiful things like that. Cool? All right, so that's what's being talked about here. Yeah. So how do they get the water? There's like irrigation systems. I'm not a farmer though, so I don't really know exactly how they do that. But I know they like make streams, and then the water can flow and reach all of the land. And now modern day, there's sprinklers and stuff, right? Yeah, it's probably how they do it. I don't know. Anyway, all right. So we're gonna get started. Starting with the first stanza. Okay. So Freedom's Plow, a poem by Langston Hughes. When a man starts out with nothing, when a man starts out with his hands, empty but clean, when a man starts to build a world, he starts first with himself and the faith that is in his heart, the strength there, the will there to build. First in the heart is the dream. Then the mind starts seeking away. His eyes look out on the world, on the great wooded world, on the rich soil of the world, on the rivers of the world. The eyes see their materials for building, see the difficulties too, and the obstacles. The mind seeks a way to overcome these obstacles. The hand seeks tools to cut the wood, to till the soil, and harness the power of the waters. Then the hand seeks other hands to help, a community of hands to help. Thus the dream becomes not one man's dream alone, but a community dream. Not my dream alone, but our dream. Not my world alone, but your world and my world, belonging to all the hands who build. All right, so we're going to pause there. Right now, if you see something that reminds you about a theme of community or freedom, I want you to take a Post-it note and put it right by that part of the poem. Nice. Thank you. All right, so who wants to share a part that they identified that reminds them of this theme? Yeah.
When a community can help us, the dream becomes not one nation alone, but a community.
All right, awesome. So there is clearly the theme of community, but what do we see, what do you think the writer is trying to say about community there?
Help each other out.
Exactly, exactly. So community is about helping one another out, okay? So right now in your Post-it notes, just like she was able to do, I want you to write the message about community that the writer is conveying in that part that you identified. Now I'd like to hear one more person share their Post-it note. And then we'll move on. All right, so she's going to share hers real quick.
Okay, this says in the first paragraph, when a man starts to build a world, he starts first with himself and faith that is in his heart, the strength there, the will there to build. That is the sign of freedom.
Okay, so there you saw freedom. And what about freedom?
He had the freedom to build new things to help not only himself but other people.
Awesome. Beautiful. Okay, good job. All right, so we're going to continue on. We're in the fourth stanza. It starts with a long time ago. Okay. A long time ago, but not too long ago, ships came from across the sea, bringing the pilgrims and prayer makers, adventurers and booty seekers, free men and indentured servants, slave men and slave masters, all new to a new world, America. With billowing sails, the galleons came, bringing men and dreams, women and dreams, in little bands together, heart reaching out to heart, hand reaching out to hand, they began to build our land. Some were free hands seeking a greater freedom. Some were indentured hands, hoping to find their freedom. Some were slave hands, guarding in their hearts the seed of freedom. But the word was there always, freedom. Down into the earth went the plow, in the free hands and the slave hands, in indentured hands and adventurous hands. Turning this rich soil went the plow in many hands, that planted and harvested the food that fed, and the cotton that clothed America. Playing against the trees went the axe, into many hands that hewed and shaped the rooftops of America. Splashed into the rivers and the seas went the boat hulls that moved and transported America. Cracked went the whips that drove the horses across the plains of America. Free hands and slave hands, indentured hands, adventurous hands, white hands and black hands held the plow handles, axe handles, hammer handles, launched the boats and whipped the horses that fed and housed and moved America. Thus together, through labor, all these hands made America. Okay, I'm going to pause there real quick. The word that I just read, labor. Do we know what labor means? Yes, sir. It means hard work. Awesome, great. I just want to make sure we know that because this is a word that's going to come up later on in the poem and we want to have that background knowledge. Cool. So right now with the section that we just read, did anybody mark or identify a part of the poem that reminded them of either freedom or community? Somebody knew.
stanza that started with down into the earth went the plow, and that whole stanza, it was describing how the whole community worked together to form America.
Awesome. So what's the message then there about community?
If you have a community, then you can accomplish anything as long as you keep working hard together.
I like that. Yes, that's true. Awesome. Any other examples? How about some from this back table? Yeah. Okay, you want to help her out?
Yeah, I think the part where it says labor, out of labor comes villages and the towns that grew cities. And I think here it's also talking about community and how with hard work with other people we can accomplish a greater purpose.
Okay, awesome. That was awesome. We hadn't read that far yet, but that's okay.
Oh.
Okay, yeah.
I feel it's thinking of like the part where it says some were slave hands fighting in their hearts to see the freedom, but the word was there always be. Because it reminded me of like how freedom was connected to how people had to work for freedom in the past.
Yeah, so the idea of working for freedom, right? So that's interesting here. It's talking about how America, was built by all these different hands, right? All these people were coming from very different experiences. You had people who were already free, people who were slaves, people who were indentured. But if freedom was in all their hearts, what does that mean about every single person, despite where they were coming from?
They all believed in freedom?
Yeah, they all believed in freedom, and it was carrying them forward in some type of way. Even if they weren't free now, it was something that was in their heart, right? Something that was still carrying them forward. So in a way, that's also like a way that they were kind of like building a community as well, right? Something that they had in common was just this idea of freedom, right? It's just thought. But anyway, okay, cool. So where did I leave off? Oh, labor, yeah. Okay, real quick. So I'm in stanza 7, and it starts with the word labor. Okay, so just continue looking at the cool examples. All right. So here we are. Labor. Out of labor came villages, and the towns that grew cities. Labor. Out of labor came the rowboats, and the sailboats, and the steamboats. Came the wagons and the coaches, covered wagons, stagecoaches. Out of labor came the factories, came the foundries, came the railroads, came the marts and the markets, shops and stores, came the mighty products molded, manufactured, sold in shops, piled in warehouses, shipped the wide world over. Out of labor, white hands and black hands, came the dream, the strength, the will, and the way to build America. Now it is me here and you there. Now it's Manhattan, Chicago, Seattle, New Orleans, Boston, and El Paso. Now it's the USA. A long time ago, but not too long ago, a man said, all men are created equal, endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights. Among these, life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. His name was Jefferson. There were slaves then, but in their hearts, the slaves believed him too, and silently took for granted that what he said was also meant for them. It was a long time ago, but not so long ago at that, Lincoln said, no man is good enough to govern another man without that other's consent. There were slaves then too, but in their hearts, the slaves knew what he said must be meant for every human being, else it had no meaning for anyone. Veneman said, "Better to die free than to live slaves." He was a colored man who had been a slave, but had run away to freedom. And the slaves knew what Frederick Douglass said was true. So we're going to pause there. So real quick, there was a lot of references in this past section to different historical figures. Go back to the second stanza where it says, in bold, "All men are created equal, endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights, among these life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness." And it says that it was written by Jefferson. Has anyone heard of Thomas Jefferson before? Okay, cool. So, who's Thomas Jefferson? Or at least what do we know about him? Yeah. He was like, what? He was a president, yeah. Well, he was also, he was one of the founding fathers, right? So he was one of the people who wrote the Constitution, and basically established this language that's the foundation of our country. But yeah, we're gonna learn more about him in U.S. history one day in the future. But good mental note. Also, Abraham Lincoln, he's the one who said, "No man is good enough to govern another man without that other's consent." Who's Abraham Lincoln? Oh, everybody knows what number president he was, the 16th president, okay? And what's significant about Abraham Lincoln? Okay, one person. Let me have one hand, actually. Okay, yeah.
He freed the slave?
Right, so he was the president there during the abolition, right? So when they abolished slavery. Awesome. Everybody knows, he's great. And the last person, which is someone that I personally didn't know about until college, his name is Frederick Douglass. Anybody hear of him? See how accurate I am? Okay, just kidding. Okay, so Frederick Douglass, who knows about him? Okay.
But he ran away from slavery, and they started a newspaper and things to help people.
Yeah, exactly. So all these three people, who I should note are in three very different time periods in American history, are making all these really amazing statements, right? What are they trying to say, and what theme are they talking about? Okay, they're talking about freedom. What are they saying about freedom? Yeah.
Everyone should be free, and also no person should be in charge of somebody else's life.
Yeah, exactly. So they're basically saying just three different definitions almost of freedom, right? But what is the writer saying about freedom? So after the big bold letters, which is what he's quoting from these three historical figures, the small print or the lowercase letters and stuff, that's the writer's voice, right? So what are things that are being portrayed by Langston Hughes? Do you have something? No? Yeah. So what is the writer saying about freedom? Why is he making these references?
To show that there are different forms of freedom.
Okay, different forms of freedom. Okay.
I think he's trying to say that everyone is equal and that there shouldn't be any slaves and everyone has freedom.
Yeah, well, definitely. He's trying to say that about freedom, right? But also there's kind of this idea that even though these statements were being said by powerful people, was it always necessarily the condition of the nation? When this person was saying all men are created equal, Thomas Jefferson, way back when this country first started, weren't there still slaves? Yeah. Right. So this idea of freedom wasn't fully attained yet, right? Like it's something that people are still like working towards. Little by little, people are getting more and more free. But, yeah. Okay, cool. So where did we leave off? Did anybody get any examples of community, actually? We've been talking a lot about freedom. In the section that we read. Yeah.
Well, in the part we read, out of labor, white pants and black pants came together and said, the will and the will. That reminded me how, I guess that was saying like how many people came together to like work hard and do something, like make a bigger contribution.
Yeah, exactly. So the community can be people working hard together to build something in common. Yeah.
And I said, when it said labor, out of labor came villages and the towns that grew cities, and then labor, out of labor came the world.
Yeah. So what does it say about community?
That's saying that, like, basically, with a really big community, you can, like, it would be progress, like, a little, like, do like a few cuts, and then go into the town, and then the village, and then the city, and then, leave it the same.
Okay. Awesome. Cool. Was there another hand over here? Yeah.
I had one where it says that out of labor came villages and the towns that grew cities.
Okay, and what did you get out of that?
I said that hard work pays off
Okay, the hard work pays off. How does that incorporate community?
because since everybody went together,
Okay, where does it say that everybody worked together?
like, out of labor, white hands and black hands came the dream, the strength.
Awesome. So that's a good example where she might have got community from the first part, but where in the text directly that it shows community is that part where it talks about the white hands and the black hands together. So you want to be very specific where you put, what evidence you pull, right? Okay. Okay, cool. So now we're gonna. Okay, stanza 9. So with John Brown. Okay, we all there? Yep. Cool. Okay, with John Brown at Harper's Ferry, Negroes died. John Brown was hung. Before the Civil War, days were dark, and nobody knew for sure when freedom would triumph, or if it would, thought some. But others knew it had to triumph. In those dark days of slavery, guarding in their hearts the seed of freedom, the slave made up a song, keep your hand on the plow, hold on. That song meant just what it said, hold on, freedom will come. Keep your hand on the plow, hold on. Out of war it came, bloody and terrible, but it came. Some there were, as always, who doubted that the war would end right, that the slaves would be free, or that the Union would stand, but now we know how it all came out. Out of the darkest days for people and a nation, we know now how it came out. There was light when the battle clouds rolled away. There was a great wooded land, and men united as a nation. America is a dream, the poet says. It was promises. The people say it is promises that will come true. The people do not always say things out loud, nor write them down on paper. The people often hold great thoughts in their deepest hearts, and sometimes only blunderingly express them, haltingly and stumblingly say them, and faultily put them into practice. The people do not always understand each other, but there is somewhere there always the trying to understand, and the trying to say, you are a man. Together, we are building our land. Okay, so we're gonna pause there. I like the last part. Okay, so any new examples of the theme of community and freedom? Triumph. This time I want you guys to just mark it with your Post-it note. So I should see everyone putting a Post-it note somewhere in this last section where we just read. You already marked it? Marked it? Marked an example? Yeah? Marked an example? All right, so this time with the new example that you just found, I want you to write on your own, whether it's community or freedom, what the author is trying to say in that example. So write it down. We're going to share. Okay, real quick, she brought up a really good vocab word that we should discuss. The word triumph is in the stanza 9. Okay, do we know what triumph means? Yeah, help us out. It means to succeed. Awesome. So when you see when freedom would triumph, and nobody knew for sure when freedom would triumph. So what does that mean, freedom would triumph? If we know that triumph means to succeed. Yeah. Yeah, when it was actually going to come, when it was going to overcome like slavery or oppression or anything like that. Awesome.
So,
Okay, that's what we're going to talk about. Okay, so now I want you, with your partner, whoever's sitting next to you, if there's 3 of you, then you guys can talk amongst yourselves. Share the example of the theme that you found and explain it. What is the author trying to say?
Yes.
I saw that one too. Okay guys, so you're gonna have 10 more seconds. Maybe 5. You're done. Okay, so can I have people share the example of their partner? Yeah. Say your partner's name and his or her example.
Taylor Green's example is, since the slaves made up the song together, it was community because they actually worked together and stood together. They also used teamwork.
Okay, they're also using teamwork and creating music. Yeah, go ahead.
So my fiance, he was like, basically what the author was trying to say was that basically that community or freedom, you couldn't so you couldn't everyone, because you didn't have it,
all the work, how they were working in hand, because if you didn't, like, if you did it by yourself, it wouldn't work, slavery wouldn't work.
That was awesome. So yeah, so the idea that you need both freedom and community, like they go hand in hand. Okay, great. So can you give me the specific example that he was talking about? Yeah,
Well,
your evidence.
Well, one of the evidence is like how, Abraham Lincoln, Abraham Lincoln, Franklin Douglass, and also Jefferson, how they all talk about how first Jefferson was talking about how we are all equal.
Yeah.
And we have unalienable rights, and how Lincoln Douglas said it's better to die free than live slave. And also when Abraham Lincoln talked about no man is good enough to govern a woman without that other consent. So
Okay.
basically these are talking about how slavery should end because we are all equal. We shouldn't be over somebody else's rights or their life, and how we should always be free and not a slave.
Yeah.
Okay, so Obama has said, freedom, where it said, slaves made up a song, keep your hand on the plow, hold on. That song with justice and hold on, freedom will come. She said she was saying like how you have to work for your freedom, like don't give up or you're not gonna get it.
Okay. Yeah. Awesome. So it kind of brings in that visual, right, of the plow, right? Like you have to just keep working hard in order to get the freedom. Yeah.
Nike said she chose, the poet says it was promises. The people say it is promises that will come true. And she said that the author is saying even when something got tough, they kept trying and got through.
Right. Exactly. Okay. Last one. Go ahead.
Okay, so I didn't hear what they said, but I have one, and
Okay.
I said that you need a whole group of people, like a community, to work with you. Because if it's just you by yourself, other people might they might think other people, their opinions are different from yours and stuff, so they won't change it. So that's why they said you need community to help you.
Awesome. Okay, so we're gonna wrap up this poem. You guys are doing a great job. We're gonna finish that, and then we're gonna go back to Copper's Son to kind of like bridge the themes. Okay. So where was I? America. America, land created in common, dream nourished in common. Keep your hand on the plow, hold on. If the house is not yet finished, don't be discouraged, builder. If the fight is on, don't be weary, soldier. The plan and the pattern is here. Woven from the beginning into the warp and woof of America, all men are created equal. No man is good enough to govern another man without his consent. Better die free than to live slaves. Who said those things? Americans. Who owns those words? America. Who is America? You. Me. We are America. To the enemy who would conquer us from without, we say no. To the enemy who would divide and conquer us from within, we say no. Freedom, brotherhood, democracy. To all the enemies of these great words, we say no. A long time ago, an enslaved people heading toward freedom made up a song. Keep your hand on the plow, hold on. The plow plowed a new furrow across the field of history. Into that furrow, the freedom seed was dropped. From that seed, a tree grew, is growing, will ever grow. That tree is for everybody, for all America, for all the world. May its branches spread and shelter grow until all races and all peoples know its shade. Keep your hand on the plow, hold on. Good job. All right. So what's like the final, I guess, like messages that we're getting from these last two sections? Yes, sir.
Well, I think the message was to basically keep your hand on the plow, never give up on what you believe in, what you know is right.
Yeah. Awesome. Yeah.
Everybody deserves freedom, and we can say, and America is us, and it's our work that we should own it and stuff and not be slaves.
Okay. Cool. And then last one. Yeah.
I think they were like saying how like slavery and things like that didn't end until like America came together and fight for it.
Yeah. Beautiful. All right. Well done, class. Now I'm just going to show you guys what I want to do for like the last part of class. So we want to build connections, right, between this poem that we just read and what we've been reading in Copper Sun, right? Because there's examples of community and examples of freedom that are across both texts. So I'm going to share first with you guys a connection that I made between these two themes. So first, focusing on the part of the poem where it says, so stanza 8, the part about Frederick Douglass. Here, this quote here, better to die free than to live as slaves. So for me, what I get from that sentiment, that passage, is that idea that freedom is more valuable than your life. Like it's worth dying for, basically. So there is an example in Copper Sun that came to my mind when I thought of that idea. And it's from chapter 3, Sorrows and Shackles. So we're going to page 19. Alright, so starting with just an Amari's group here. So it says, in Amari's group, it was Tirza who seemed to have given up. She slowly and stumbled often. Her back was soon a patchwork of welts from being whipped when she could not keep up with the rest. One night she whispered, I cannot live like this, Amari. My parents, my sisters, all who I love are dead. I would rather die than be enslaved like this. Tirza, stop talking like that, Amari whispered back. We must live. Why, she asked dully. Because as long as we have life, we have hope, Amari said fervently. Hope of what? Escape, perhaps? You are a dreamer, Amari, Tirza told her quietly. I have no dreams left, and the next morning Tirza And so it's a really heavy part in the story where you see Tirza's, I see her spirit sort of just like overcome, right, with grief. She lost her family, right, which for a lot of us, our first experience with community is our family. And she lost her community, she lost her freedom, and so she lost her will to live, right? It kind of reminded me of that part in the poem, that idea of like, I'd rather, what was it?
I'd
rather die free than be
Yeah, thank you guys, good looking at. But at the same time, we get here from Amari that just the hope of freedom was enough for her to carry on, right? So these are different ways where you can get different kinds of messages about freedom and community, but they're still their own themes, right? So what I want you guys to do is pick one of the messages that you got from this poem and think of a passage in Copper's Sun that connects with it, okay? Does that make sense? What are we gonna do right now? Yeah.
Find a message in the poem and see if it's really saying in the opposite.
Yeah, exactly. It's really important to get a specific example, okay? You want to have your evidence, all right? So go ahead, work on it. Yeah. How it's completely opposite. Yeah. So she asked a good question. She found an example in the book that she says is completely opposite from the message that she got in the poem, and that's a good connection that she can make as well. But yeah, you can write it on your Post-it note. Okay. Yeah. On the packet for the passage, and then also one sticky note in your book. Okay, so it's gonna be your activity.